gosh. Have we got sound now? No closed captioning. Okay, so nobody heard a word of what I just said. That's too funny. I was so excited to get started. I forgot to turn on the microphone. See, this is why I have Renee, and he had to skip out because of an emergency at the gallery. So kind of had to handle all of this myself. So if I'm a little behind the 8 ball, forgive me. There we go. So I will repeat what I said about the giveaways for today. I have my favorites. I always give away Dynasty brushes because Dynasty is so generous in supplying us with brushes to share. So I decided today we're going to have something special. So a set of my favorite Dynasty black gold brushes, which includes my varnishing brush. Love it. And my flat wash. I love my flat wash in the black gold. And of course, the script liner is my favorite in the Dynasty black gold. And in the Dynasty faux squirrel, which you know is my absolute favorite brush line that Dynasty makes, we have a rigger and 2 of my favorite angles. So we have those are there as well. So we have 2 great giveaways for today. Plus we have, that little create bag and a bunch of little goodies that Renee and I both love to throw in there. So they're quite a nice little giveaway for today. And all you have to do to get your name on the wheel is just join us in the chat. Say hello, say good morning. Let us know where you're watching from because we'd love to know that. And that's all it takes. Get your name on the wheel. Renee copies all of the names off of the chat, plops them into the wheel, and when we spin it at the end of the day, 2 of you are going to win those great little brush sets. So we have lots of goodies for today. I cannot see the YouTube chat, but I can see the Facebook one for the moment. So I'll say hello to a few people there. Ann Pritchard, Lois Ann Pritchard, and Cindy Braden. Hi, ladies. And Brenda Owen, my sweetheart, and Darlene Greenwood from Michigan. I miss your face. We always had such fun when I was in Michigan. You guys were awesome. And Lisa Hansen, you got your goodies? That's wonderful. Thank you. And who else? Who else? Jane Schumann, hello. Colleen Tupper and Dorothy Holgate, hello. And Barb Schwabel, nice to see you here. Oh my goodness. And Brenda Ellis. Well, that was my problem. We had no sound because I forgot to turn on the mic. I am a great many things, but juggling all of this tech sometimes is a bit more than I can deal with. Renee does it seamlessly. Me, not so much. So, and Diane Blais. Bonjour. And Carol Colbert. Hello, Carol. And Bonnie Clock. Diane Crean. I'm looking forward to painting with you too. And Sandy Barton, my sweet friend from Provo, Utah. Marilyn Healy, hello. Oh, oh, Donna, I'm glad that you guys like the marmalade. Wonderful. And Cindy Roberts, hello. My goodness, everybody's here today. And that's just Facebook. I wish I could see YouTube at the moment, but unfortunately I can't. But when Renee gets in, he'll probably set up my monitor for me. In a last minute emergency. So again, that was a rather redundant statement. Most emergencies are last minute. All right, guys, if you, pardon me, if you guys are ready to see what this new camera can do, we were giggling over it this morning. Renee and I both had some little tech awe this morning. You may have noticed in recent videos we were getting stops and stalls. It would go quiet for a minute, then it would do funny things, and then sometimes you would see static on the screen. Our high definition camera that does the overhead was dying, and so we were frantically shopping for a new one that didn't break the bank. And we found one. I shouldn't say we found it. Renee found it. And we ordered it. He installed it this morning. And oh my gosh, I can Zoom with it on command. I don't even have to have him in the room to do it. It is awesome. You're going to love this. Hopefully you guys will see a big difference in the quality of the down shot. So if you guys are ready to get started, so am I. Fingers crossed it all works. Oh, look at this. And I think Renee just pulled in. You can hear May's barking. So look at the quality of this. And I'm going to zoom in. Look at that. Nice big zoom and then zoom back out. So awesome. So Renee's got me all set up to stream quite effectively, I might add. So I'm going to move my phone out of the way. We don't need that. My tech support is, if it wasn't for him, I'd be lost, I think. But he is phenomenal. So the piece that we're working on today, it's called Happy Holidays. I love this. It was just such fun to do. And I love the rusty effect on the can. I love the candy canes. I love the wood effect in the background. Everything about it. Just, I love it. It really turned out quite wow. So we managed to do okay without you. Except I don't have a monitor. So, so I've been squinting at the screen over there, and then I loaded up Facebook, but it seemed to work. Yeah. Oops. Trying to kill the camera?
Brand new camera.
Brand new camera.
Let's bring it.
Oh, I already showed them that we can zoom in and zoom out and
at the press of a button.
At the press of a button.
I need a cable.
You need a cable. So he's going to get my monitor set up while I talk about this background. Now, I do this wood background quite a bit, and it's pretty simple to do. And I thought, with the rusty can that Suzanne says she heard you come down the stairs.
Yeah, I got a heavy foot.
Yeah, well, you inherited that from me, I'm afraid. So we're doing a wood background, something super simple. It doesn't have to be anything elaborate, but it works so well and sticks with the theme of this rusty tin can. So I made a boo-boo. I did my original piece before I scanned the image in. And which means that by the time I scanned it in, Tracy's having the most fun with her new toy. Yes, sir. Where's my... I need a fugly brush, and I need some warm white.
And
hopefully. And lo and behold, we're reversed mirrored. YouTube is reversed, she says.
Yeah.
She says YouTube is reversed. Facebook is nice.
What do you mean, reversed?
I don't know. She said something about it being mirrored. So we're starting with a black background. I've got 2 coats of lamp black. No? Okay.
Looks good there.
Okay. Yeah, it's fine.
Print is backwards.
So it is.
Oh. It is mirrored. Give me a second. Let's see if we can do this. All right.
There we go.
Ta-da!
Ta-da! There we go.
I fixed it.
It's fixed.
Oh, don't cause problems, kitten.
Oh, that's her middle name today.
Problem?
Oh.
Is your middle name problem? All right. You like the new camera?
I do. Oh my goodness. Okay, I think we have our tech issues away. We're good to go.
There we go.
There we are. Yep. Okay. I think we have everything sorted. We will eventually get this painted, I swear. So I'm using one of my fugly brushes, aptly named, I might add. This one is particularly fugly, but I love this brush. So we're starting with a little bit of warm white in a wet brush, and we're going to work over this lamp black vertically with a light touch. And we're just going to put stripes in like so. And so that it leaves open areas, little bits of black showing. Just like that. Oh, I was saying that when I painted the original, I hadn't scanned the line drawings yet. And the scanner always, for whatever reason, likes to adjust my line drawings. So I compensate for that by scanning in the line drawing in first and then printing a copy so that I can work from it. And anyway, I painted this one without that. And so it was slightly larger. So I printed it out, painted it. And it wasn't until I had it painted that I realized just how big it was. So then I had to go and change my plan because I had planned it for an 8x10, but I went and grabbed a 9x12. So just like that. So if it's too much black for you, if you want it lighter, you can come back in with a little more white. Just let the brush dry out a little bit so that you still get that dry look, because that's essentially what we're aiming for, is that dry, cracked, worn wood look. And honestly, the more layers you put on, the better it looks. There we go. So now I have this nice dry look. I had to work ahead today because it's a involved piece. It's got a lot of little bits to it. So I'm going to dry this really well. Hi, Teresa. How are you doing, sweetie? Terry Brown. And Dawn. Hi. Rose Frank. Hello. You upgraded to watching on my TV. Good for you, Tina. This new camera, I hope you guys see a difference in the quality of the video. I'm watching it the same as you are. I see better quality, which was what I was aiming for, was, quality images. But I really am so excited about the fact that I can zoom in so close with this camera. There we go. So I'm going to use a very high-tech piece of artist's equipment for this next part. It's called a Sharpie. So I'm just going to randomly place 2 lines on this. It doesn't blur out anymore. It has a very fast autofocus. Hi, Sherry. Yeah, I got a notification, and I just haven't made it to the down to the mailbox yet. It's been miserable weather here with the rain, so I'll get down there over the weekend, but it's more than likely there. I did get a notification from my postie. So there we go. So I'm putting 2 lines in just to indicate boards. Just like so, with the Sharpie. There we go. Hi, Lynn. Oh, I think I still have sound. I'm not muted. I know I'm not muted. Oh my goodness, Gail. This is a fun project. I was looking for something festive. Looking to do something festive, something fun, something not too complex, but at the same time, have a bunch of different techniques in it. And I thought that this one would be a fun one to do. So I'm going to grab my half-inch angle, or not my half-inch, my 1-inch angle. Oh, God. YouTube has its issues. I mean, we've been, yes, this would make a cute flag, wouldn't it, for the kitchen or for the garden? So the next thing we're going to do is shade this to make it look even more like boards. I want this to have that worn look. So I'm going to use a 1-inch angle and some asphaltum, of course. And I'm going to float on either side of those lines. Neatness doesn't count for this. Just like that. Good morning, Linda and Judy Thacker. Yeah, we had a high def camera, but this one is 4K. The other one was high definition. It also went to 4K, but it honestly didn't have enough juice to push that. But this one is in 4K, so it's a very nice camera. And I love the zoom feature. So when we're doing smaller detail, if you need me to get closer, I can do it. Oopsie daisy. So nice big floats. They do not have to be perfect. We want to make this look rustic. Here we go. I love this look. This distressed wood look. It's a simple way to get that wood look without, any fancy tools. All you need is a brush that has, a coarser bristle. So then, once you've floated on both sides of those vertical lines, you're going to dry this. Hi, Rebecca. No, it's not a multi-surface paint. It is a Decaword Americana. Just 1 second. If you can't find it in Americana, Plaid also makes one. A Folkard paints. They also make an asphaltum. It's a little darker than this one, but it's the same idea. But an asphaltum, and if you can't find it at all in either one, a nice dark brown, like a burnt umber or something, will do. Just use it a little heavily thin it, that's all. But a nice dark brown will do the trick too. Asphaltum is just my favorite color. So now we're going to float around the outside edges of this, but I'm going to show you a little trick. I kind of want this to have that sort of broken look, so I'm jiggling my brush back and forth like that. Do you see what it creates? Gives you that irregular line across the top, and it's all in how you move the brush. So I've loaded the brush as if to float, and then I do this, just jiggle the brush back and forth, and it creates sort of an irregular line in the float. So turn it around, and we're going to do it the other way. Darkest value towards the bottom. There we go. So you still get the float effect, but now you get some changes. There we go. I love that you get lots of variation in this way. Kind of looks like the bottom has been dried. This type of background functions very well for a whole bunch of different things. So you could do beachy stuff on this. You can do country stuff on this. Florals, all sorts of things work really well on this type of a background. And there's nothing to say it has to be done in white. You could do it with a black and then a country red over top of it, or a barn red over top of it. And it will still give you that dried old barn look. So it's just a matter of choosing the color that you want. So I'm going to float down the outside edge on both sides. Just like that. And then we're going to dry this really well. And then we're going to put a light wash over top of it. Trish, I'm with you. Hooray for a winter project in this heat. Absolutely. And Juanita, hold high from Central Virginia. Oh my goodness. So I'm going to take my asphaltum and I'm going to heavily thin it. Really water it down because we just want to make a little bit of tone on this. Brenda Walls, welcome. It's your first time watching? Oh my stars. Debbie, what's for dinner tonight? We're having prime rib burgers tonight. That's what we're doing. My husband said he wanted some beef and a salad, so that's what we're doing. And Denise Chavez, hello, from sunny and warm. Sunny and warm in Reno, Nevada. And Gwen Bollender from North Alabama. Oh my goodness. I have a bunch of new patterns coming up, some new designs coming up. I wanted to show you the Christmas one that my membership group is working on. And this is the one they're doing for the month of July. I love this one. And again, we're doing this sort of rich red leather in the background. And of course, this big rose and gold border. I'm loving this. So this is what my membership is doing. Everybody in the West Coast is complaining about not having any heat. Oh, it does look like a book corner. I never even thought of that. The other thing I'm doing is these. I'm going to have a pattern for this coming out shortly. And this one is done with colored pencils. So I'm excited about this one. This is a decoupage project and colored pencil using my new decoupage papers and a little bit of gold foil. So that's another thing that I'm working on. So I've been having entirely too much fun. I go from cutesy country to a whole bunch of things. There's Heidi. Hi there. So I'm really quite happy with this, but I wanted to talk about how you can add on to this. Now, ordinarily, if I'm on canvas, I like to use a little bit of soft black around the outside edges. It just gives it sort of this distressed look at the edges, a much more worn look. And I really like that. And it's done very simply, just using a soft cloth and rubbing a little of that black around the outside edge. On this one, we have a couple of options. We can do the a broken edge or a chipped paint edge. And I like it, especially on this type of a surface. So let me show you very quickly how to do that, because it's simple, and it provides such a nice finish. But we need a little bit of black. Where's my black? There it is. So I'm using a little bit of lamp black and a small round. You need something about a 2, I would say. You don't need to have a big brush for this. And we're going to start at the top, and you're just going to roll the brush along the edge, push, pull, roll, until you get to that seam, and then you're going to push. And you can see that it creates sort of a chipped look. And you can lighten the pressure so that it's a smaller chipped appearance or non-existent. And then you can roll it along a little more until you get to the corners. So you can see, let me zoom in. I've been dying to try this. So that you can see that it gives you this chipped look along the upper edge of the board. And then you can turn it around and do it along the bottom. You can also do it on the edges if you like. Some people don't like it on the edge. I'm a fan. I like it. Hey, Jessica. Asphaltum. And it's asphaltum. I love this technique. I just think that it frames things up really nicely. It gives everything a really nice, heavily distressed look. And that appeals to me. I like things that are a little beat up. And yeah, it does. It gives it a nice aged appearance. You can do more at the edges. What do you think of the zoom? Is that tight enough? Because we can actually get even closer. But if this is close enough, see, that broken look is just so cool. So we've got that fabulous chipped paint around the edges. Now, the fun part about this is that you can do this part at any time. If you aren't sure if you want to do this or not, leave it until the end, until after everything else is finished, and then decide. You don't have to do this at this point. It can be done at any point. But I love this look. I just think that this is such a fun one. So I've done the chipped paint look on this one, on this side, so that I can show you how to do the more smoky, dirty look on the other side. So here we go, and I will zoom back out. Ta-da! Oh, I'm loving that. I am loving that. Loving the zoom. Oh, yes. It will be awesome. I wanted to be able to zoom in, so yes, we got us a really good camera. So I'm loving it. I'm glad that you guys like it. It's important that you guys get to see everything. Uh, so now we have that in place. There's a fun way to accentuate this, and you can do it either with a paint pen, like a very fine white paint pen. You can do it with white paint and a liner brush, or you can do it with a white gel pen. So there's all kinds of options when it comes to this next step, but I'm just going to show you quickly. This is a white gel pen, one of my faves, that has decided not to work today. I'm thinking no, it's not going to work today. I'll try the other one. I have two for a reason. Oh, look at this. Ah, there we go. So a nice fine white line. Zoom in. Just like that. It's just enough to highlight that edge. The finer the better. It does not need to be this thick, heavy line. It doesn't even need to be continuous. You can even put them, in very specific locations. So you can see that little bit of a highlight. And although it's a really simple and subtle highlight, it has a tremendous impact on the finished piece. And it's such a simple one to do. So where that chip paint is, you can put that little highlight at the edge. Doesn't have to be perfect. Like I said, it can actually stop and pick up in another location, and it's fine. So it gives you a really nice finish in the end, especially when you go around the outside edge. I love it. So once you've done that all the way around, you are ready to trace and transfer your design on. And voila! I went the wrong way. There we go. I love anything. I love the rustic look. I'm a fan. So I've already traced my line drawing on. I'm going to switch to a smaller angled shader. I'm going to go with a 1/2 inch in this case, because I'm going to be tucking into some smaller areas. Now, there's a couple of different things about this. You can put a horizon line in if you want to. If you don't have to. It's as simple as that. There is absolutely no need for you to worry about putting things in that you don't like at any time, not just with this. But I like a horizon or a tabletop, so to speak. So I'm going to put one in. So I'm going to use a ruler of some sort to measure, just to give myself a little wiggle room, as they say. And I'm going to use my white pencil. And I'm just going to put a light line, not heavy, just a light, faint line for my horizon. And I'm using a watercolor pencil, a white watercolor pencil to do this. And I'm going to float a little bit of asphaltum in behind my can and across the top here. So just a nice little float like that. Don't forget to go up along the side of the can as well. Ta-da! I said, it doesn't have to be perfect, and if it's not something you want to do, you don't have to. I just like to have some indicator that this can is grounded, that it's sitting on top of something. But that, again, is just me. Otherwise, I feel like it's floating in the middle of nowhere. And then while I'm at it, I'm going to put some floats of asphaltum in and around. Just tuck them into the deeper areas It doesn't need to be solid all the way around, just tucked into those deeper areas like so. And don't worry about being too tidy about it. If it goes over one of the candy canes or one of the leaves, it's all right. We haven't painted those yet. That's why I like doing this first, so that if I happen to whoopsie and get asphaltum on my candy cane, it's okay. But it's just a little float of color just to give these areas a little shading without burying everything. We've worked so hard to get all of this neat stuff in there, get this really cool look. It'd be a shame to lose it all. There we go. So we've got that great shadow in behind our bucket or can. There we go. So I'll dry this. There's a reason why I say it doesn't have to be neat and tidy, because it doesn't, quite literally. We're creating a... What did I miss? Absolutely, Kelly. You can put a wash of asphaltum over it if it's too bright. Absolutely. If what I would say though is if it's too bright for you, you can give it a light spray of matte spray and then put a wash over it. It'll be fine. If you're talking about the white ink, yeah, it will unfortunately smear if it's not completely dry. So yeah. Oh, I shade before painting because it drives me crazy to get all those shadows over everything. Hi, Eileen. Welcome. There we are. So, all dry. Now, let's talk about the candy canes. Now, candy canes I am basing with warm white. Mainly because it's my favorite white. Lately, though, I've been using a lot of sand gray. I love sand gray. Hi, Debbie Marlowe and Carol Jones. Hello. Brenda Walls. Video will be up on the YouTube channel afterwards if you want to watch then. So we're going to base coat all of the candy canes with warm white. And I paint following the shape of the thing that I'm painting. And I try to do it in long strokes whenever possible. Simply because that way the brush marks all go in one direction. And it makes life so simple. I am never opposed to asphaltum. Yes, I'm loving the new camera. I'm glad you guys are happy. It's important that you get to see what we're doing and see it clearly. Our other camera was letting us know that it was time to go over the bridge. Linda, I know I paint very fast. But I also, the thing to remember is that I have a limited amount of time to paint this. I have to do it within a certain amount of time. So I kind of plan out my process so that I can get it all done in that time. So that often means I have to work ahead. So I don't ever expect you to keep up because I know I paint fast. Now, you might also notice I'm not really worried about how opaque these candy canes are. Usually one, sometimes two, but usually I only paint in one coat. Because I put so many other colors on top of my base color, I really don't worry about making sure that it is necessarily fully opaque. If it requires it, I will, but if it doesn't, I won't. So again, I paint following the shape of the piece. So this is one of the reasons that when I'm base coating, that one coat is generally enough. Because I'm not having to go back and fix, a whole bunch of little areas or, brush marks or slip slaps or, lap lines and things like that. So I have always found that if I do this in one coat, then I can get everything I need to get done. And honestly, these candy canes have 4 more colors going over top. So if it's not perfectly opaque, it doesn't matter. Ta-da! So I have been working on a series of decoupage and collage papers. I've been having an awful lot of fun doing it. And I had a bunch of them completed only to discover that they were printing entirely too dark. The images had not been adjusted properly. So a learning curve for me. This is a new process for me. So thankfully, I have friends that are kind enough to let me know when there's an error or if there's a problem with something. And a couple of you reached out to let me know that there was a problem, and you were gracious enough to give me an opportunity to fix it, which I hadn't. So now the images are all fixed, and we're just putting them back into the PDF format, and we'll have them available on the website. But in the process, because I learned something new by fixing them, I ended up creating another another set because I was just having entirely too much fun. So there's going to be some fun things coming up with colored pencils and these paper images. Why do I use warm white instead of titanium white? Titanium white is actually more transparent than warm white. So warm white covers better. I tend to gravitate towards warmer colors. My personal preference, I love warmer colors. And so for me, having this warmer white works very well. If I need to highlight a warm white, I will use a titanium white. But more often than not, I use warm white. It is my favorite white. You can always use a titanium white, but you'll find yourself having to put multiple coats down because titanium white, hey Lucinda, titanium white is considerably more transparent than warm white. Neither of them is perfect, believe me. I know, but warm white actually covers better. There we are. So, candy canes. What brand of colored pencils do I suggest? My favorites are Derwent ChromaFlow. I love those colored pencils. But they are quite pricey and they're not all that easy to find a lot of the time. But I have conversion book from ChromaFlow to Prismacolor and ChromaFlow to Polychromos, which is the Faber-Castell brand. If you're starting out with colored pencils, I can highly recommend Prismacolor because one, They're easy to find, they're moderately priced, and they work beautifully. I have probably, oh, I don't know, 12 sets of different kinds of pencil. I have a ridiculous number of color pencils. And that's putting it mildly. I just bought a set of Posca colored pencils. These ones here. This is the Posca brand of colored pencils. I had never heard of them, and then some. I am a big fan of Posca, believe me. The black gel pens that I use, made by the same company that makes Posca pens, made by Uni. And I have lots of Posca pens. I adore Posca pens, the paint pens. And so when they said they had colored pencils, I had to get a set. And the piece that I showed you done on decoupage, this one, is done with these pencils, which is easy, by the way, to convert over to Prismacolor. And these ones are very much like Prismacolor. Anne Marie, I hope you're keeping cool too. It's been a little toasty out here on the East Coast. So if you're looking for an affordable set of pencils to get started with, I can recommend these. These are beautiful. And I'm in the process of creating a conversion kit for these, or conversion chart for these as well. I did it for the Derwent because I love the Derwent pencils. Those are my favorites. I use them a lot. And I'm really enjoying these. These are a very nice pencil. For the price point, they're fantastic. So if you're looking for an affordable set to get started with, if you can find these, fantastic. But a good 36 pencil set of Prismacolor is an excellent investment. That's all I can tell you. Prismacolor makes a great pencil. They're very affordable. If you're looking for good quality, they're affordable. But they do change. Every color pencil set is going to have a different value. These are comparable, but they are less expensive than the Prismacolor. But they're comparable to Prismacolor. So, yes. I love colored pencils. I have far too much fun with them. And this was such a fun project to do. It's super simple. I used the colored pencils to do the flowers, some gold leaf. Look at that. Isn't that pretty? Super easy. Decoupaged it on and then added the colored pencil work to it. Before I get carried away and start breaking out pencils. I love my Derwent pencils. My Derwent ChromaFlow, absolutely beautiful pencils. So we've got candy canes. So for the candy cane, you've got a couple of options. I'm a huge fan of Country Red. That is probably my all-time favorite red. I use it all the time for a whole bunch of different things. But there's a color called Watermelon Slice. It's a deeper pink. Yes, Terry, I do have instructions for gold leaf. Oh, Anne, what do you think of them so far? I love them. I think they're a really nice pencil. For that price point, they're a really nice pencil. So if you want something a little more contemporary, try Watermelon Slice instead of more traditional reds for candy canes. It's very, very pretty. So I'm going to grab a flat. I'm going to grab a rigger. I've got a rigger. So I'm using a little bit of Country Red is the color we're going to use. Would help if I actually put the line drawing back on, wouldn't it? So I'd know where these stripes are going. Now, you might have noticed down here at the bottom, I've got a dark line and then 2 blank spaces. This is how, moi, decided to save herself a great deal of heartache. I lined up the bottom of the sheet to the dark line and put the tape right in between because I hate transferring things. Sorry, but it's just having to retrace things drives me bananas. But this is the easiest way I could think of to put these back on. So I'm just going to quickly trace the lines onto my candy canes. I'm a firm believer that use the tools you have on hand, and sometimes a little ingenuity goes a long way. So I had the line drawing on because I placed this where I wanted it. I had to leave room for the lettering down here. So before I took the line drawing off, I took a pencil and I drew a line across the bottom of the piece of paper and then left the open space for where the tape is so that I could do this. Because I hate trying to reposition things. So I made sure I had a template by which to do this. I'm inherently, I don't like to call it laziness, but it frustrates me. And I'd rather look for a solution to the problem than make do. This solved my problem. Patricia, do I have the conversion? I will be putting them up on the website. They'll be in the educational materials section. I have just put up the complete color chart for the newest and most updated Americana color list is up there. Plus there's a bunch of other things. There's some brush information and a bunch of other stuff on there right now, but I can absolutely put those conversion charts up there. As soon as I have the Posca one done, I will put them all up. So, ta-da! See, it's more than just a hat rack. Yes, work smarter, not harder. They are. I've actually really enjoyed them. Yeah, I love my Faber-Castells. I like my Prismacolors. I absolutely love my Derwent pencils. I love the feel of them. I find the colors are really vibrant, very creamy, and they go on so nice. So, and I've been really enjoying my Posca pencils too. So, as soon as I have the conversion done, I will absolutely put that up on my website. Mappy Peralta. Hi. Hi back. Oh, nice. Oh, and see, and I don't like tracing papers. I don't like the feel of it. I always work with my photocopy of my line drawing. I always have. I just don't like the feel of it. So here we go. I have lines. So I'm going to use my rigger to put one coat of country red on those stripes, like so. Here I am struggling with my, between the two, Derwent. If I were to recommend between those two, Derwent. I love them both, but of the two, I like the colors on the Derwent. Ta-da! You know me and my riggers, and doing these stripes with a rigger is so much simpler than trying to do it with a round brush. Yeah. For a long time, I didn't even trace my line drawings on. A lot of the time, I just drew them right on the surface. Not really a good idea, but I know in school we used projectors. We would do our drawings, on larger pieces of paper and or on our sketchbooks, and then we would, use the projector to put them on the canvas. So I'm using just country red. Doesn't have to be, you don't have to overthink this. One color that I absolutely love. Can you show us a close-up of the rigger brush? Absolutely. Now, a rigger, for those of you that have never used one before, a rigger brush looks like a liner. You're going to wonder what the difference is, but it is actually more of a flat. It has a chisel edge instead of a point. Do you see? If I work with a smaller brush, or like a liner brush, they tend to come to a point similar to a round. So, which is nice because then you get that really sharp point because you can twist it into a sharp point. But a rigger is designed for other things. It's not designed for doing those teeny tiny little details. It's designed for doing things like lettering and painting borders and whatnot. Terry, you can get them from the Brush Guys or from Sandy McTeer. And I have a coupon code if you're shopping for brushes on the Brush Guys website. I have a coupon code. It's Tracy M. It's capital TRACY, capital M. And that gives you an additional discount. The reason I send you guys to the, I just realized I made a mistake. The reason I send you guys to the Brush Guys is they're a distributor. And so the prices they have on there are generally anywhere from 25 to 30% off, and that's their list price. Their sale price, I should say. Whereas the list price is generally 25 to 30% higher. So you get a discount off of a discount. I just realized I missed a portion of my candy cane. It just kind of stopped back there. Which is not good. There we go. Oh, Montpellier. Yep. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I have a good discount code. If you're shopping on the Decor website for paint or for whatever, it'll use my coupon code. It's Tracy15. Tracy M15. And it gives you 15% off. It used to be 5. Here we go. I got my paint ordered the other day. What am I doing? I'm all over the place here. I fixed my boo-boo and got distracted. Here we are. One of the colors that I love using at Christmas time is watermelon slice. I love it for candy canes. Oh, yes, absolutely. Decor is, pardon me, Decor is running a contest right now. And the prize is 1 bottle of every single color in the line. 250 bottles of paint. So, win that contest, you'll never have to ask me about asphaltum. Because you'll have a bottle. I love my asphaltum. It's become a bit of a running joke at Decor. Um, they all thought it was rather funny to tease me and say they were going to discontinue Ashfalton. They punked me. There's Vicky. Oh, you're welcome. Yep. Yeah, you can enter every day. Get your name in. I can't enter, but I'd love it if one of you guys won. Besides, for me to enter a contest that's giving away 250 bottles of paint would be kind of like taking a sandwich to a banquet. Because at last count, I had over 1,000. Yeah. Obsessed much? A little bit. Look at that. We have candy canes. There we go. And Miss Robin, good to see you here, sweetheart. Et voila. Carol, are you on YouTube or on Facebook? Yes, one of my members, and she's also one of the auditors in this class, in this during the lives. Jess just became a grandma again, I think. But yeah, she had a little grandbaby the other day. So our membership is all excited for her. Because who doesn't love a baby, honestly? You have trouble with dark ones? Well, one of the fun things about the technique that I'm using is that you're not going to see them by the time we're done. So I'm going to dry this. There we go. Oh, what's not to love? Everybody loves a baby. Yeah, yeah, that is true. So now we have candy canes. Watch this. We're going to use a little bit of Prussian blue. This color always scares people. I don't know why. So I'm going to give myself a clean palette because we've got lots to do. Oh, there's nothing like that new baby smell. It's like a new car smell, right? That's what I used to call it. All of my babies had the new car smell. So I'm going to switch to a 3/8 angle. I know I have a clean one here somewhere. Tomorrow is brush cleaning day. Good morning from Timmins. And Alicia, hello. Yep, tracymoreau.net. Yes. Hi, Deborah. Deborah, you can watch the video. If anything that you've missed, you can pick up on my YouTube channel or on Tracy Morrow Live. The video will be up for a while. So I've got a little bit of Prussian blue, tiny little bit, and we're going to blend this out. You want to blend it out really well. You don't want this color full strength. What do we clean my brushes with? Jack's Studio Soap. It's my favorite. So our highlight side is on the left. Jet Crew Killerin. Oh my goodness, what a cute name. Jet. I love it. So our highlight side, or our light source, is coming from the left. So that means that all of our shadows are going to fall to the right. So we're going to shade on the right side of each of these candy canes. So on the hook of the candy cane, you're going to bring that float up to the top. See how I'm not twisting my brush? I just bring it up to the chisel edge. This is the perfect time to zoom in. So shadow on the hook. Bring it up. Don't roll the brush. Don't twist the brush. Just bring it up to the chisel edge till you reach the top of the hook. And I'll do that again on this one. And that way your float follows the shape of that candy cane. Small amount of Prussian blue. Float the right side. And because we get a float in there too to separate them. The right side, I don't twist the brush, I just bring it over. In behind the leaf, up the whole right side to the top. Inside the hook and over to the top. Oop, I ran out of juice. There we go. Oop, a little too much color, but I'll thread that out. Actually, I think that looks better. Let's deepen those. I'm just deepening these floats. I think the darker version looks better. There we go. Float over to the top. Now, this method is going to give us a bit more realism than if we just, shaded with a tan color. Oh, you keep losing your sound. Is there a reason I didn't use Bahama Blue? I wanted a deeper shadow, and I wanted a really cold looking shadow on this one. So in the Bahama Blue has a touch of green in it, so I wanted to avoid the green. So I'm using Prussian blue. When I'm painting flowers, whatnot, usually flowers, things like that, bumblebees' wings, whatnot, they have I want a bit of a softer look. I use the Bahama Blue. When I want something that's going to be a little harder, a little heavier visually, then I want things with a darker and colder blue. What did I mix? Oh my good Lord, 108 degrees. Oh my stars. So it's heavily thinned. I'm not using it straight. So because it's a very intense color. So this little bit of Prussian blue, it separates all of our candy canes from one another. I've got one in here. I gotta get in there. Well, this one needs to be a little darker. There we go. There we go. So I've got that first shading in. Base color of the can is Williamsburg Blue. So let's dry that really well. And then asphaltum. Little bit of asphaltum. You don't need a lot for this because we're going to use it very thin. We're just going to tone that blue down a little bit without losing any of the depth. I love the blue, but it needs to be a little deeper. And a float of heavily thinned asphaltum gives it more of a gray tone as opposed to a brighter blue. That little bit, we don't need a lot, just a little. That little bit of asphaltum does wonderful things for these candy canes. I love toning a color. And toning Prussian blue without losing the impact, because what gives this such a great, cool thing. The tin can is Williamsburg Blue. So there we go. A little bit of asphaltum. And I'm loading my brush with a little bit of Joe Sonia's. Look at the wonderful things that this does for that. Look at our candy canes. Remember what I said about only having one coat? You're welcome. I'm only using one coat of white, that warm white on there. And it was a little sketchy. It wasn't a perfect base coat. It had, the odd brush mark in it. It didn't quite cover perfectly. But have a look at those. So right now we went from warm white to country red to Prussian blue to asphaltum. 5 colors. All total. So we're going to dry this. Hi, Lady Di. That's okay. We have a recording. There we go. So the next thing we're going to do to these, I'm going to grab a little bit of warm white. Don't need a lot. Now I took warm white out. I'm going to go get a bottle of titanium white. Color I do not use much, but I have a terrific amount of. I think I have 8 or 9 bottles of titanium white, but I haven't bought a bottle in about 2 years. So, titanium white. So, I want to show you something. I don't know if the camera will pick this up or not. Can you see the difference in temperature between these two whites? This one is warm white, and this is titanium white. It is not necessarily a difference in color, but a difference in temperature. There is a small amount of ochre in warm white, just a teeny tiny amount. And that's what gives that white its warmth. And then you can see in the titanium white, this is a pure titanium white, so it doesn't have any colorant whatsoever. So you end up with that difference. This is why I use this one. 1, I like the temperature of it. And 2, I like the coverage of it. This one actually covers a little bit better than titanium white. So just so you can see the difference. I love this camera. So I'm going to use a tiny bit of warm whites, and I'm going to blend this out to float. And we're going to come back to our candy cane. And we're going to start in from the edge of the... Yes, my other camera was dying, so I had to get a new one. So we're going to start the float at the top, about 1/8 of an inch in. So not right on the edge. We're going to start at the top, and we're going to put a float of warm white, like so. Oh, I over blended it. I don't quite have enough paint. There we go. Okay. Start at the top, I'm going to float over. There's our first float. And I'm going to come in about 1/8 of an inch from the edge here. And I'm going to start right there and come down like that. Start at the top, 1/8 of an inch down. Start inside the curve, 1/8 of an inch all the way down, so that you can see a portion of that candy cane. Start at the top, 1/8 of an inch. This one is tucked in behind that one, so I'm going to stop right there. I need to blend that out. So this float is the beginning of our highlight on our candy canes. Oh, don't have enough liquid. So our candy canes are starting to take on that. Can whitewash be used for floating? Absolutely. It's going to, there's another interesting one. There's another interesting one. Whitewash. It's in the whites, in the Americanas, but whitewash is a unique color. And it's not that it's necessarily less white or even less coverage. It's in the end result. It gives you a very dry, semi-opaque look. And so, yes, absolutely, whitewash can be used for all sorts of things. So I'm going to come in 1/8 of an... Oh, too much paint. 1/8 of an inch in from the edge and down. So isn't that fun how it makes them look a little bit shiny? Well, this part's going to make them look even shinier. So this is where I'm going to go into that titanium white. So if I put warm white on top of warm white, it kind of, it's there, but it kind of meh, you know, not that much impact. We want impact. So I took my rigger and titanium white, and I'm going to come in from the edge of the float. You don't want to do it right on the edge of the float. You're going to come in from the edge of the float just a little, and you're going to put a nice bright white stroke like that. And you're going to do the same thing to the float that goes down. Just like that. So now our candy canes look shiny. I haven't seen Lucy today. She must be a busy girl today. It's Saturday. She's always got something going. So that little bit of titanium white is what makes that pop. Look how shiny those candy canes are. That's the downside to the zoom, is that it's... I lose you in the... or you lose me So there we have these fabulous shiny candy canes. So there is your 5-color candy canes. Let's dry that. I love painting candy canes. Now, here's another thing. You can make this even a little more realistic. Take a thin line of green and put it either to the right or to the left of either any of them. And then look at your candy canes. Aren't they fantastic? I love that. Now, we have lots of graphite lines and whatnot around there, and we're going to clean all of that up. I want to make sure that that white is dry. Now, I did this with a rigger. You could do this with a liner. You could do this with a small round. That light impact point, and that's what that is. Notice they're all on the same side. So that is following that light source that is here on the upper left. Gives us that nice slick look, like they're super shiny. Really nice. I love doing candy canes. So our next piece on here, we're going to tackle those berries, and we're going to base coat all of those berries with warm white. We're going to use a little bit of warm white to paint those berries, but I want to show you a really, really quick and easy way to do that. You gotta find my circle maker. Everybody has one of these fun little things in their arsenal. And if you don't, you should have one because they're a fantastic little tool. I'm going to grab a small stencil brush. I've got a small stencil brush. And all you have to do is slide the thing over till you find the right size for the berry that you're working on. This is why this is such a fun technique. You're going to take your stencil brush, circular fashion, change directions, et voila, one berry done. So instead of meticulously trying to base coat them all, you can use a stencil to do this, to base coat them white. That's one technique. So using a stencil to do that is super easy. I also like to do this. I like to paint mine in by hand, except I got way too much water in there. So paint all your berries with warm white. I've got a glob of water on there. Oh, my stars. There we go. I had way too much water in my brush, and then it wouldn't behave. So there we go. So I'm just going to quickly base coat all my berries with warm white. Why am I doing this, you may ask? I'm going to be using Country Red over top of this, and I want these berries to be nice and bright. So I'm going to base coat them with white first. Can I give you quick steps for the candy canes? Absolutely. Yes, whitewash is the color. Quick steps for the candy canes. The base coat is warm white. The diagonal stripes are Country Red. The first shading is done opposite of the light source, which is on the right. So we need, or the highlight is on the left, so the shading goes on the right. Your first shading is shaded with Prussian blue, heavily thinned, and then you tone it with a float of asphaltum. The first highlight is a float of warm white, 1/8 of an inch in from the edge of the candy cane. And then the final light impact, which is that stroke of titanium white over top, is just slightly in from the edge of the float. So you still can see the edge of the float, but then you have that stroke of white that's 1/8 of an inch in. And this is the result. You get that slick, polished look. So I'm going to quickly finish base coating these berries. I usually use a warm white under reds, especially on darker backgrounds like this one. I prefer to put a coat of white because then the berries come out nice and bright. They maintain that nice bright red. But anytime you're painting something, especially on black backgrounds or dark backgrounds, whether it be navy blue or dark gray or whatever it is, you can use either white gesso or warm white paint and then mix a small amount of the color you're going to base coat with into it. And then you get a really nice foundation without having to load on multiple coats of color. And reds are notorious. Reds are notorious for being poor coverage. And you're welcome, Burr. Happy to do that. Now you need a candy cane. So there we go. So our next color is we're going to repeat that beautiful red that's in the candy canes because it pops. This red just pops on top of that white. So we're going to use a little bit of country red over top of our berries. And I love what that little bit of white underneath does for that country red. Keeps them nice and bright. Now, coverage with country red is generally not too bad. But that's one of the reasons I love it over white. Because look at that. You get these beautiful, bright berries. Now, I didn't want these to be a perfect match for the candy canes, and that by the time we're done, they won't be. Look at that. Question about stenciling. Can I do the paint mix you just mentioned on a black background? The paint mix for the candy canes? Or the technique for doing the berries? Yes, absolutely, on a black background. I always recommend using some sort of undercoat when it comes to painting reds or yellows or oranges, especially if you're working over top of a darker color. Because they're transparent, they will be influenced heavily by whatever color you put them over. So if you don't have... Yeah, absolutely. On a black background, absolutely. It works beautifully. So look at that. Look how bright our berries are. Now I'm using a rigger to base coat these berries, my favorite brush for this type of thing. Because it has a chisel edge, it makes it very easy to keep the berries circular. You're welcome, sweetheart. I mean, we've all had the problem painting anything that was round. It ends up egg-shaped or 3 times larger than it started out. So I love using a rigger to do my berries because it's just an easy brush to control because it has that little chisel edge. I can do so many things with it. When I have to do something with a lot of berries, I will use a stencil because it's just fast and it's so simple. So there's our berries. Oh, this new camera is just rocking. I'm loving it. The can is going to go very quickly, so I'm not really worried about the can. I have all these little details in these berries and the various techniques for doing the candy canes. I wanted to make sure we get them all just so. So I'm going to rinse my 3/8 angle, trying to keep all my brushes in one spot, not in the water dish. Oh, riggers are fantastic. So for these berries, this is how we're going to do this. I frequently use blues when I paint red. What's the brand? It's a Dynasty Faux Squirrel. It's my brand. I love my Faux Squirrel brushes. If you're looking for a faux squirrel, hang on, I'll put this. Let me zoom in on it. Just because I wanna. This is what they look like. Dynasty Faux Squirrel, Series 1827. And this is a flat. But a rigger looks like a liner brush like that. Dynasty Faux Squirrel. Best brush ever. I'm a big fan of my Faux Squirrel. I know. Oh, I love this thing. My heated tool. Oh, I've killed 3 of them in 6 years. They last me about 2 years, and then I killed them. This, if you're looking for a really great thing to help you with your painting, it's this thing, this Ranger heated craft tool. I kid you not, this is the 4th one. I've killed 3. This is my 4th in the last 6 years since we started doing lives. When I first started, I had a little hair dryer and I would have to mute everybody because the thing just roared like a 747. This thing is fantastic. I can talk over it. It's so quiet, and yet it does the job beautifully. Okay, so when it comes to floating berries, yep, exactly, Cheryl. That's why whenever I'm doing something, especially on really dark backgrounds, I will bring in a color, a little bit of my main color. So whatever the base is going to be, I put a little of that in my gesso or in my paint. Yeah. And I find it just, one, gives you better coverage, 2, it keeps the tone, so it's not being influenced by whatever you're painting over. So I'm going to show you a little trick. Anytime that you're doing shading on reds in particular, I find, I like to keep this temperature that I've got going in here, this cooler temperature. I want to keep that in here. I don't want these berries to get too warm. They're a winter berry, so I want to keep all of that cool temperature going. So instead of using another red to shade a red, I prefer to use a purple. And I like my purple to match the tone of the berry itself. So this is how I shade. I take a little bit of my base color for my berry. So I'm using Country Red, and I'm going to pick up a little bit of Prussian Blue, and I'm going to mix that in. And what it gives me is a red, but it's a very cool red. It leans into the colder temperatures. Oh, the tabletop. So again, we're going to shade on the right side of the berries. I've mixed my Country Red with a little bit of Prussian Blue. And I love the temperature. It gives me this almost a purpley tone. Zoom in so they can see. I like the purpley tone. So I'm mixing that Prussian. You can't see that. I'm mixing that Prussian with a little bit of Country Red. So look, you see what it gives me? That sort of purpley red. And it stays in the tonal range. But it gives me that nice color. Look at that. Anytime you're working with reds in particular, if you can use your base color and mix it with another value to maintain, or another hue to maintain the temperature of everything you're painting, because temperature is important, then et voila. So I have berries. Look at that. Love that shading method. It isn't a really stark shading color. It's just enough, but it matches the tonal range on there. So we're getting this really rich red. So to highlight these berries, again, I want them to be soft and kind of frosty looking. So you're probably going to think I'm nuts, but I'm using tea berry. I love this color. Wow, that looks like orange on there, but it really isn't. It's tea berry. The darkest greens, yeah. Green has a tendency to neutralize reds. And so that's one of the reasons that it makes a great shading color. So I'm taking a teeny tiny bit of tea berry. And this is my first highlight color. Oh, would help if I actually had paint in my brush. There we go. Highlight color. In from the edge, just slightly. Leave a sliver of that kind of edge showing. If you leave that little sliver, it creates the illusion that they're spherical as opposed to just round. And spherical is important because it's what gives them dimension. I love the tone that this warm white would have been fine. I could have used that. But I love the frosted appearance that this little bit of tea berry gives this. And look at that. I love that. I know, I keep sliding out of the camera shot. That's the downside to a zoom. So I'm going to dry that. And then I'm going to use just a dot of either warm white or titanium white. Either one will work. And it's going to be on the upper left side of each berry. So I'm going to bring this a little closer to the camera so that you can see that little sliver of space. So when I'm floating that highlight on, okay, don't put your brush in your mouth. Do you see that little sliver? It isn't right on the edge of the berry. It's just a little sliver that's left. So that when you put your highlight on, it can go just in from the edge of that float and on the upper left. It's a little dot of white. There we go. And then it's a softer highlight. You don't want to compete with this, with the candy canes. So I stayed away from using a really bright highlight, that semicircular highlight. I went with something a little more subtle. So I stayed away from the white, leaned into that tea berry, and it gave us a really nice subtle highlight. And then that brighter highlight gives it that impact, but it doesn't take away from those candy canes. And we want the candy canes. I have done this so many times this week. Just pop my brush into my mouth, holding the handle in my mouth. It's ridiculous. So we're going to dry this and we're going to do the leaves. I'm leaving the can to the end because that's fun and it's fast. And everybody's going to ask me why I base coated it blue. I love those candy canes. So I have a round, and I have 2 rounds here. I'm going to use the number 5. And our base color for these leaves is lush green. I love lush green. Aw, thank you, Lori. So lush green is all of our holly leaves. And again, I paint my holly leaves following the shape. It's not in the supply list. Okay, that's weird. Let me see. I love technology for a lot of reasons. Oh, my stars. Where is my cloud? Oh, there it is. Good grief. It's a wonderful thing about technology. Let me see. And you are absolutely correct. It is not in the supply list. Did I put it in the other one? No, I did not. I am sorry. I have to make a correction. I didn't put it in the supply list. Did I put it in the instructions? Yes, I did. Oh my God, I read these things 20, 30 times before they actually go up, and yep. Williamsburg blue. Okay, I will fix that. So I'm using lush green to do my leaves, and I'm going to do all of my little leaves first. Oops. Oh. There. Dun, dun. Now, again, when I'm base coating leaves, I try to base coat them to follow the shape of the leaf. I do love this this lush green. If you don't have lush green, you can use antique green. You can also use avocado toast, although it's a little lighter, but you can accommodate for that. Yep. But yep, I can absolutely fix that. That's not a big deal. I am a huge fan of lush green. I also love antique green. But lush green works beautifully as a replacement. I I I make mistakes like anybody else. But for me, it is the reading. I read the pattern over so many times, and sometimes you just can't see the forest for the trees. Kathy, I'm using a Dynasty Black Gold. This is a number 5 round. So, and I normally have anywhere from 3 to 4, sometimes more patterns on the go at the same time. Such as the case with this one. I had the rose pattern that I showed you earlier, the Christmas one. I had that one on, and I'm working on sunflower piece, and I have a bit going on, just a little. I'm trying to get ready. I am taking the last week of July off. So I have to be ready, which means I'm going to be recording video, and I have 3 of them to do. And then I have to have everything ready for the Saturday after I come back. So I kind of have to have everything ready for 3 weeks instead of 2. So I have to have my members' August project ready for the end of July. I have to have the video for the Saturday that I won't be here ready. And then I have to have the project for the following Saturday ready before I go. And I have to have, a whole bunch of things done before I take some time off. So, and I've had them all sitting on my table for the last 2 weeks. So if that's the only mistake you find in that pattern, I'll be happy. Although I do try very hard to get them right. So good old lush green. It makes for awesome holly leaves. Makes good leaves, period. And I have a couple of other Christmas designs coming up as well. So I don't know. I think I'm just trying to stay cool. So everything I'm painting has to do with winter. But my members are doing a Christmas piece for the month of July. I don't think I've shown you guys that one though. It's a pretty one. I like it. So this is where you get to hide some little boo-boos that you've made, especially on those candy canes. And the other thing, again, not worried about whether or not, I hope you're going to do something fun. Oh, yes, we have lots of fun things. My fun, I'm going to spend time with my family. I'm going to spend some time in my garden. I have projects to do in my yard that I've been wanting to get to. I want to play in my garden. My poor garden it's tragic this year. We had such a late start. The only thing that's generally doing well is the beans and the zucchini, but you can't kill zucchini, I don't think. So I've got a couple of smaller leaves tucked in here that I'm going to switch to a smaller brush. Oh my God. I'm a big fan of anything to do with Christmas. So, and I like elegant Christmas designs. I like country Christmas stuff. That's why this one just needed to be painted. Coffee can full of candy canes. A just rusty coffee can full of candy canes. I was looking at this. Now I put twine around it, but honestly, you could put any ribbon around it you like if You know, if twine isn't your thing, you can put whatever you want on it, quite honestly. So we're almost there. We're almost there. There we go. Now, there's a few little areas that are open in here. You can just tuck in some of that green in these lower open areas. They're all going to disappear anyway, but if you want to clean them up a little, you can just tuck a little green in. There we are. So we have leaves. Here we go. Oh, Jessica, the zucchini. I absolutely loved your recipe for the pineapple zucchini. That was so good. But then I screwed it up on the second batch and it all comes out tasting like peaches. It's delicious, but it's not what it was supposed to be. So yeah, I've got zucchini bread on the brain. I've got and a couple of years ago my son gave me a Thor smoker. It's a beautiful piece of kit. I absolutely love it. And but I tend to prefer to use it as a smoker. A lot of people say you can cook a bunch of things on it. I'm not a big fan. But I really love the smoker aspect of it. So I have, oh, I don't know, probably about 10 pounds of pork marinating right now, getting ready to go in the smoker tomorrow. And I'm excited. Peach zucchini. You know what? It wasn't supposed to be. Um, when I used the pineapple juice, I didn't quite have enough, and they looked very blah, like they just had no color. So I threw just like a quarter teaspoon of turmeric in, and I didn't think it would affect the flavor that much because it was such a tiny amount in such a large batch. And then it sat for like a week, and then I opened one just to try it out, and oh my God, it was so good, but it does. It tastes like canned peaches. It just blew my mind. But I could sit and eat a whole jar because they're just so yummy. So the color, this is a color I've been using a lot lately for shading greens. I just find it's cool. This is Black Forest green. This is what I'm going to call sort of a semi-phthalo green, meaning that it's got a little bit of blue in it. It's a cooler green. Yeah, it's just the weirdest thing. It comes out tasting like peaches. It's so weird. So you can see that there's a coolness in this temperature. This is Black Forest green, and it looks very, very dark. And it actually is a very dark green, but it has a blue tone to it. And that blue tone is what sets the tone for this. Oh, yeah, absolutely. I can do that. Be happy to share my... It's a recipe for pulled pork, and you have to marinate the pork beforehand. So you feel like you're living in a zoo. So do I. So I'm using a 3/8 or a 1/2 inch angle. 3/8 for the smaller leaves, the 1/2 inch angle for the bigger leaves. So I'm going to pick up a little bit of Joe Sonia and a little bit of Black Forest green. And when you blend it out is where you're going to see the blue. It takes on this phthalo tone. And this is such a great color for these leaves. So I'm going to start over here And we're going to float in behind those berries, around the berries. And I'm going to, it's sort of a U-shaped float. So I'm going to walk this color up the leaf very carefully to about the halfway point. And it's dramatic how much it changes these leaves. So float right up against that candy cane and then walk that color to about the halfway mark. Walking it just means that you're bringing that float along. In behind the candy cane. Look at that. This is where you have a chance to crisp up some of these colors, these borders and edges and whatnot. I love this color for holly leaves. It takes on that rich, dark element. And we're going to come in here. Remember that leaf extends down in behind this candy cane. So that flowed in nice and tight. There we go. Look at that. And this is another reason, as I said, most of the time I only use one coat for a base coat because I'm putting so many things over top of it. There we go. So it's just the base of the leaf. Where it joins the stem is where we're putting the thing. Oh, Heidi, happy anniversary. 45 years. I'm 42 this year. And I don't know where all of that time went. But it sure flew by. Or at least it seemed like it. Et voila. I have always loved this sort of U-shaped float. It just works really well. And then I've got a float here, again, close, tight into that candy cane. And around these berries. Oopsie daisy. There we go. It is such a lush looking color. So I'm going to zoom in so you can get a better look about placement. So in behind, everything gets nice and dark and deep. So let's dry that. Oh my stars, 48. Congratulations, everyone. 58 years. My goodness, Donna. So on the smaller leaves, it's just a little U-shaped float right at the base of the leaf. Right here, where it joins the stem. So a float only comes about halfway up the leaf altogether. Just like so. And then we've got one more little one down here. So there's that nice little float. So I'm going to dry these. And then we're going to put some center veins in. And someone asked me the other day, like, how do I decide which side the shadow is going to go on? Well, it's actually pretty simple. I have a simple method of doing this. If the leaf bends this way, you're going to put it following the curve on the top side of the line. So watch this. So I've got a 3/8 angle. I'm going to pick up some of that black forest green, and I'm going to start at the base of the leaf, and I'm going to follow the curve and then come down to the point. That's how I do it. So if it curves the other way, then it's got to go on the other side. So here we go. Curve goes that way. Curve goes that way. I never have a shadow on a leaf going straight. Should always have a curve to it. There we go. And the reason is quite simple. If it's straight, it looks flat. There we go. So this leaf here doesn't really have a curve one way or the other. So I'm going to give it one. There we go. But they're never straight. Straight is boring. There we go. Here we are. So now we have center veins all the way around. So now we're going to go to the highlight. Now, one of the things that you can do, especially if you look at your leaves and they're looking a little punchy, then you can use another, like a mid-value green. And in this case, you can use a little bit of avocado toast. But if they're fine, and this one is fine, then you can go into your brighter green. This is Margarita. I love this green for highlights. So again, I'm going to use my Margarita and a 1/2-inch angle. And I'm going to put my highlight on my leaves. Now keep in mind that just because I've put the highlight on doesn't mean I'm anywhere near finished. So it might not look great right away. This one does not. "55 years, good for you." So here we are with that lovely little highlight. Hello, son.
How you liking the camera?
I'm loving the
Are
camera.
they liking the camera?
They're loving the camera.
You liking the zoom in, zoom out
Oh,
feature?
yes. They like the zoom in, zoom out.
Cool.
They're happy.
That looks all messed up.
What looks all messed up?
Oh, you got comments on that one.
Yeah.
Are you zoomed in right now?
I am.
Oh.
It's very nice. Isn't it, gang? They're loving it. Now I have to remember to, like,
Zoom out.
Well, not only that, but I have to be mindful about where I put the
Yeah.
thing. And I had a question for you,
Oh.
Judy Thacker.
Yeah. Oh, amazing.
You did a great job, Renee. Yeah, he's pretty handy.
What was it what Red Green used to say? If they don't find you handsome, they better find
Find
you
you
handy.
Yeah, should at least find you handy. Lucky for us, you're both.
Yeah, lies.
Not at all. Ta-da! I think I need to switch to a smaller brush. I messed up that float. Something fierce. There we go. Yeah, he did. He made a great choice. I entrust him implicitly when it comes to this kind of thing because he knows what he's doing. He is handsome and he is handy. He is handy. It amazes me. He's a learner. One of those people that likes to learn. If he doesn't understand something, he will find a way to figure it out. It's very much like his father in that regard. Not to mention the fact that he loves taking things apart. I'm thrilled with this. The fact that it has such a great picture and that zoom is amazing. So I'm going to switch to a smaller angle because that big old brush is... I like to get in quite tight in some places, and that big brush is just not letting me do it. Oops. Oh my goodness, Lorraine. 62 years. $59. Wow. I'm a spring chicken then. Chuck and I are 42 this year. But we've been together for 45. So I think we're just about ready for the next step of this. So there is our highlight. Now, one of the tricks that I use is not necessarily worrying about whether or not a highlight is bright enough. 9 times out of 10, if you deepen your shading just a little, that highlight will get much brighter. Oh, my stars. We're tough. So I'm going to come back in with a little bit of asphaltum. And I'm going to deepen the shading down the center vein with a little float of asphaltum. I want you to see how this changes things. So have a look at this leaf here. I'm going to put a float of asphaltum down that center vein, and look at the definition you get. The minute you do that, that other highlight gets a little bit brighter. And in here will be a good example. Little float of asphaltum. It doesn't drastically change the color, but it amps up the highlight. And it also cleans up any little wobbles and bobbles that you may have in there that you don't necessarily want. And I love what it does for a highlight. So I'm going to come down here and do this again. So all of those shaded areas where you put that Black Forest green, I know, isn't that amazing? On July 3rd, that's so cool. Here we are. So that little float of asphaltum in those deeper areas, look what it does for this. Little float in those deeper elements of the leaves right over top of that Black Forest green. Look at those leaves. 58 years. You guys are amazing. So there we are. I love that this gives us that temperature that we need. That little float of asphaltum, all I'm really doing is just toning these leaves so that they all fall in. So when you look at everything in here, the temperature has to be matched in order to be balanced. And so I'm putting in that little bit of asphaltum, which is just a toning color. It's not really a shading color, it's a toning color. So it brings everything forward. Look at that. So let's dry that. And then we're going to put a little oomph. My goodness, it's been a year already. Wow. I'm going to take a little bit of that margarita, just a little, and I'm going to pick up a little bit of warm white, just a titch. I don't want this to be super white. And I'm going to brighten a couple, pardon me, just going to brighten in a couple of places, mostly at the tip of the leaf, like that. Leaning towards the light. The light's coming from the left, so I'm going to just amp that up just a little. There we go. Up on that tip there. Here we are. I like this. This is just a little highlight. And it's just a mixture of margarita with a touch of warm white. And that little highlight is isolated to the upper portions and to the far left. And all it does is just creates a light impact point. There we go. I want it, whoops, right there. Oh my goodness. Could I mess that up anymore? There, that's better. Good heavens. There we go. That little bit does wonders. So there's that little brighter highlight on there. I love that. So now that we've got those in, I'm going to dry this. Now, in the pattern, there's the star is on one page. And you can, it's down here with the tag. Right down there in the lower corner of that page. Right underneath the instructions for the tag. And the fun part is that the lettering on the last page, at the top of the last page, is exactly the size you need to put here. So you can use that, or you can use the text that's already been provided in there. It is in there somewhere. Or you can use the word joy. Joy is in there as well. So I have to, very quickly, this is what I love about technology. I can use my phone to print it. So fun. So I'm going to take my Factus black eraser and I'm going to go around my candy canes and around my leaves and just remove any visible graphite lines that are still there. I just want to clean these up real quick. So I want nice crisp. I want this to look really nice. There we go. Nobody likes graphite lines. I hate them. There we go. Da, da, da. There. So I have one little task just to finish off the leaves and everything, and that is to finish the edges of the leaves. So let's talk about that tin can. I love this. I love anything to do with tin cans. I have an obsession with tin cans. I like things that are rusty. And this one is yeah, I can zoom in whenever I want. This is the cool thing. Or zoom out. So this rusty tin can, it started out Williamsburg blue. It can start out gray, a blue-gray, whatever you've got, quite honestly. You just need that sort of muted tone in the background, that cooler tone. Remember I keep talking about temperature? We need that cooler tone that's back there. So I used Williamsburg blue. It's one of my favorite blues, especially for something like this. You need that cooler temperature back there. And although it doesn't look like it, it is going to end up looking like a rusty tin can by the time we're done. So I'm using Williamsburg blue, and we're going to use a color called red spice. Yeah, red spice. I love red spice. And this one is, like I said, this one, you can do this in an afternoon. I did. And the difference is it takes much longer to design things than it does to actually paint them, to be honest. I've just got an ugly mess inside my bottle here I need to deal with. There we go. Okay. My red spice needs a shot of juice. So, brand new bottle of my favorite juice. Joe Sonia's Fast Dry Glaze. I love this stuff. This is my last bottle that I have stored away. But I have ordered some more. What inspires me to create my projects? Lack of sleep. I have a terrible time sleeping. So I have a tendency to, I'll wake up in the middle of the night and be daydreaming about something or whatever night. And pictures pop into my heads. So once a picture pops in, I start sketching it. If I wake up and I have an idea, then I write it down. I put it in my phone. So I've got a little bit of red spice on my palette. I love red spice. It's not as dark as burnt sienna, but it's still a wonderful red. So essentially, I'm going to create a few patches of rust. And those patches are going to be pretty much everywhere, but we need to have some of that blue showing through. So I'm just using a loose float. And remember what I did at the base of this to put that float in so that it looked irregular? I'm doing the same thing here. Basically just using the chisel edge of my brush to pull color down. And we need to have it just about everywhere. Now the base color for the can is Williamsburg blue. If you don't have it, if you have uniform blue or blue gray or French blue gray, any one of those will work. It doesn't have to really be all that dark, but it does need to have that gray tone and that blue tone. That's all. You're going to cover up 98% of it anyway. But it's the tone that we want, the temperature of it that we want. And with bits of it showing through, it's what gives that can that metal look. So I put a little bit of this everywhere. Up underneath our twine. Again, I haven't done the twine yet because I want a little bit of control. I just realized I missed a spot. Or did I? Okay. So I'm going to get that orange into these places. Just, it's thinned. See? And this way, you don't have to panic over it. Like I said, we're going to cover about 99%, 98, 99% of this blue. But it is important because that's what gives us that metal look, is having that gray tone underneath. Just like most faux finishes, it's important to have an undercoat because that's what sort of sets the tone, if you pardon the expression. So if you've ever done any amount of faux finishing, you know you've always got an undercoat and then you have to use a tinted glaze. Well, our undercoat in this case is that Williamsburg blue, and our tinted glaze is this red spice. And you can see how it starts to look more like a tin can as you go. So I'm just floating this color in along the outside edges. And I'll zoom you in so you can get a better look. Look at that. And don't forget the outer edges of these. So you can see I've got a wash of that pretty much everywhere, but you can still see the blue. Again, keeping that darker value to the outside edge. Don't forget to put a little in there. Those areas where that blue is just peeking in. Gotta get that in there too. And then I'm going to go along the edge of that tag. And the same here on this side and along the bottom. In here, da da da. But having a little of that, you can see I've got a little of that blue peeking through all over the place. And we're going to do the orange on there. That red spice is transparent, so it sort of conveys that temperature of the blue. It allows it to come through. There we go. I love this. I have a thing for rusty tin cans. Don't you? Well, if you don't now, you will. There we go. So look at our can. Already starting to look rusty. And that's just the first color. Let's dry that. And then we're going to, oops, I forgot that bottom seam. Got to get some rust on this. But again, I don't want to cover the whole thing. I want to bring it along. Cape Cod blue will work, yes. What you need is that blue-gray. I used Williamsburg because that's what I had. Okay, so now that we've got, our little rusty thing happening. Hi, Linda Stevens Johnson from Texas. Lorraine, I use Fast Dry for everything. Oh, Margaret, I love old-timey watering cans too. I use Fast Dry for everything. So if I'm using any floats and whatnot, Gail, it's called Red Spice. Now I'm going to switch to some asphaltum. I've got a collection of paint bottles going here that I need to put away, or I'm going to be in big trouble. And that's not it. I did have Canyon Orange here, but now I gotta go find it. There it is. Okay. And if you don't have red spice, Georgia clay works too. It's just you're going to have to thin it a little bit. You're welcome. You're going to trust the process here? I know. The idea that we're going to make this look like a rusty tin can, starting with blue, I know it probably doesn't look like it, but I promise you it will. So I've got on my palette some asphaltum and some Canyon Orange or burnt orange, either one, and some orange flame. My favorite oranges. So I'm going to take some asphaltum and I'm going to switch to a smaller brush because these are going to be tight. I'll rinse out my brush. Linda, I've been responding. From time to time, some people's security will block my emails. I've gotten them several times, and I keep responding. You had asked about the angels, correct? I do have them in stock. You can just order them on the website. I keep getting your email, but I know a few people have had that problem. It's usually their email security. But if not, I mean, we'll find another way. Message me on Messenger and I'll happily help. I don't use Messenger often, but if I know somebody's going to be sending me a message, then I'll go check. So you're going to go around and we're going to shade under the leaves and under that lip there with a float of asphaltum. And this is where our can starts to really take shape. A little shadow on the edges, underneath our berries and underneath our leaves, tucked in there. Take care, Jess. So there's 3 major ridges on this coffee can right here, and we're going to put a float of asphaltum underneath each of them, just like this, and so that it forms a ridge, because that's what we're looking for, is that ridge. So little float of asphaltum right up to that area there. And if you have to tip your brush up onto its point a little bit to do this, that's okay. So tip it up. So now we've got a shadow underneath each of those little ridges. So we should have 3 floats. 1, 2, and 3. Bury that light there. There we go. So I've got 3 shadows like that. So that forms, as you can see, gives us that coffee can look. And we're going to do the same thing underneath the twine, right here. Nice little float of asphaltum right there. Now that float is going to give us a little more depth, and it's going to lift this up. I prefer the fast drying glaze because it doesn't slow down. The flow medium has a tendency to slow the drying time of the paint. It works great, but it also affects the drying time, whereas the fast dry glaze medium allows you to dry your paint a little faster. So there we go. And we're going to take that asphaltum and a thin float here. Notice how I'm using my point on its tip. And then on this side, I'm using the whole chisel edge of my brush because I want a nice wide float. Ta-da! And then a nice wide float all the way along here at the base of the can where it joins that little lip. We want a dark float there. I like a nice crisp float there. Ta-da! And right here, right at the top of that twine, we want a nice float too. And voila. Just divides things up very nicely. So look at our can now. It's really starting to take some shape. And we haven't even put the highlights on yet. So I'm going to put a nice float here on this side of the can, and I'm going to walk that float to roughly almost halfway. Not quite all the way half, but roughly. And then on this side, I'm going to walk it down a little, just like that. So that we have an open area out here. So we're going to dry that, and then we're going to shade the outside edges of our can. So I've got a 1/2 inch angle loaded with asphaltum. And I'm floating a nice shadow down this side all the way to the bottom. So you see it's roughly about a 1/2 inch wide. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side, but it's going to be a little wider. So this float is going to be about 3/4 of an inch wide, which means I'm going to walk it in a little bit. And I'm going to deepen it a little. The nice thing about floating something like this is that it's a tin can. So it's getting more and more rusty looking as we go. So I'm going to deepen this float along the bottom, and I'm going to walk it up a little. Now, even though I'm covering most of that red spice that we put in, I'm covering a lot of it. Asphaltum is transparent, so I'm still seeing that orangey tone, that rusty tone, and it lets all of that blue to peek through. So it keeps that metal look. And that we want that. So look at this. So next, we're going to amp up the rust look. And we're going to do that with a little bit of the canyon orange or burnt orange. Either one will work just fine. Canyon orange might be a little bright, but we'll see. And I'm going to pick it up on a angled shader. Oof, I've got way too much water. Way too much moisture in my brush, too much glaze. There we go. So I'm going to bring in a little bit of that canyon orange. And I love this part. You're going to be selective about where you place it. So you're not going to have it everywhere, but you're going to have it in a lot of places. So it's just a little short dab of color, like so. And a little float right on top of those ridges. You're going to bring a little of that color in right there, following the shape. Da, 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 da. Little highlight there. Look at that. I love what this does. So here our can is starting to look more like a rusty can. And by using these small patches and dragging them down, it takes on more of that. Let's see, I'm going to lift it up so you can see a little bit more. Next week, I'll get them to adjust it so we can zoom even closer. And down here, remember, water runs down. So we're going to bring in some little bits of color that sort of run. You see what I mean? And again, we're putting it right over top of that blue. So I love that look. So we're not obliterating the blue, but we're making use of it. So if you still got a fair amount of blue showing, that's okay. Oh, Donna, great idea. Would you be happy with sunflowers for the time being? Because that's what I'm working on now. I'm working on sunflowers. I'm doing one with sunflowers in. I don't even know where my line drawing is. Hang on. Nope. Ta-da. I don't know what I did with my sunflower thing. There it is. So this is, it's not quite finished, but this is next Saturday's. It's called Autumn Joy. And it is a tin can full of sunflowers with the little tag. So that's our project for next Saturday. And we're using rust as well, but we're going to be doing a slightly different technique. So there we go. I really love having this little extra bit of rust. So if you want more, put more. If you want it brighter, you can make it brighter. So this is where I switch to, yep, sunflowers right too. This is where I switch to that orange flame. I'm going to zoom in again. So look at our can. I have a thing for sunflowers, and I try not to paint them too often because I have a thing for sunflowers. I would be doing them all the time. I love sunflowers. So this is your highlight color for our rusty tin can. So I'm using just a little bit of that fabulous orange flame. I love orange flame. Maybe a tin can floral series. That's not a bad idea. I do love a series. So here is a little highlight. You can sort of pity pat this wherever you want. Now, when I did the first one, I did it on canvas, and canvas has a texture. So I dry brushed a little color in, and it was so pretty. But I really love this little bit of, see that little bit of orange flame is just so pretty. I love the fact that there's not a ton of frou-frou. I'm not a frou-frou person. I don't like the little bit of, oh, look at that. Ooh, a little bit of rust. Gotta love the rust on our tin can. So we have a fair amount of blue showing through, and I really like that. Really like that. So there we've got a nicely rusted can. The rusted can. And now we're going to do twine and the tag, and theirs are really fun. But before I get started on that, I want to center my lettering on the bottom. So just roughly. There we go. I'm going to take my tape off of this side. I love the lettering on this one because it's super simple. This piece has a rather primitive look to it, and I didn't want to detract from that. So I decided to stick, I'm going to go that way a bit. There we go. So I'm going to tape that in place. And I'm just going to quickly put this lettering on. Ta-dum. Love this. And you can do this with a brush, the lettering, or you can do it with, a white Sharpie if you have one, or any size white paint pen, depending on the size of the lettering. I'm going to use a 0.7 millimeter white Posca pen to do this. Because one, I love the handwritten look. It adds to this. And Posca pens are just the answer for so many little issues, including, this fine lettering. And I don't believe in struggling to make something work. So, if a Posca pen helps you get the lettering looking really good, then a Posca pen it is. Again, work smarter. There we go. Happy holidays. And I like the zoom out, please. Zoom out. There we go. I just put the lettering on the bottom. When I float, do I use medium? Yes, I do. I use Jo Sonja's Fast Dry Glaze. And I use it for everything. I use it for thinning my paint when I'm doing line work, when I'm doing lettering, when I'm floating, when I'm mixing a glaze for layers. I use Jo Sonja for everything. Yep. So the next stage, we're going to do this tag. Now the tag on the line drawing has the word joy written on it. You can do that. You can go to josonja.com for the fast dry glaze if you're in the States. But if you're in Canada, you can go to country dash or underscore bear underscore wood.com. But josonja.com is your best resource for it. And it's this one with that light green shell or the graduated colors. I love this stuff. It's phenomenal for floating. There we go. So we're going to paint our tag. I'm using warm white. Oh, goodness. I need to clean my brush. Here. Still a green in it. Good gravy, Marie. So this is what I like about doing all of this stuff last. Yep, I dress my brush in it first, and then I pick up the color. So now I'm going to use warm white. Again, I follow the shape of the surface I'm painting. So if it's a rectangle, then I do it in long vertical strokes as much as possible. My base color, what do you do to coat the MDF before you start painting? Isn't that something else? Yes, I use all-purpose sealer to seal my piece, but I mix it with my base color so that I get my first base coat done and seal it at the same time because I'm lazy. I don't like having to put it on and then wait for everything to dry to just have to do it again and again. So I mix my all-purpose sealer 1-to-1 with the base color. So in this case, it was lamp black. And then I give it a light sanding, and then I put on one more coat of just paint. So, almost there. Now, there is a fun technique for doing these tags, and that is to cut an actual tag out of cardstock or paper, and then paint it separately or stamp it separately and then decoupage it on. You can absolutely do that. You don't have to do it exactly as I've done it. So if you want to add a decorative element to this, instead of just painting the tag, you can absolutely cut it out of paper and do it that way. So if you wanted to photograph the tag that's in the line drawing and then just decoupage that on, you can do that. Absolutely. And I have done that before. So I just goofed up a little bit here. I gotta fix it. There we go. My paint is that Sharpie underneath is showing through, so I just needed to fix up my boo-boo. La 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 la. I had another boo-boo. I put my finger in the paint, so I've got a little bit of white on my tin can. Yeah. Would you use antique white for an old looking? Oh, this is going to look older by the time I'm done, but yes, absolutely. You can use antique white. But I'm going to make this look old anyway. So I'm going to dry that. Oh yeah, that's right too. Dick Blick carries it as well, the glaze, if you're looking for this. So my tag is almost dry. There we go. Ta-da! Almost dry. There we are. So I'm going to put the star on. I wanted a rather primitive looking star on mine. So I'm going to freehand one on. But honestly, you could use any kind of star you wanted. Or you could put anything on there you wanted. So if you wanted, perhaps something a little, that is a wonky looking star. If you wanted something a little less primitive, you could use stencil. Quite honestly, you can put whatever you want on this. You could also use a wooden star. Absolutely. I am not adverse. You could decorate this with however you like. That's the fun part about this. You are not obligated by any stretch of the imagination to do exactly what I have done. I do like a primitive star, but I don't seem to be able to draw one today. That'll do. Now, the color I chose to do my star with is called Sunset Gold. Ever have a day? I'm having a day. A star stencil would work great. I'm going to erase most of this. I can still see where it was, so I'm just didn't want the pencil to be in it. So a little bit of Sunset Gold. I love this yellow because it is an in-your-face bright yellow. Somewhat like saffron yellow. I love saffron yellow. The difference between the two, saffron yellow has a slightly orange cast to it that I love. That makes it ideal for a whole bunch of things. So when it comes to star, you can do whatever your little heart desires. But I wanted something childlike, I think was the term I was looking for. I didn't want it to be perfect. I think perfection is rated. So our star, again, with all that white, one coat. You Nobody is more excited about this Zoom feature than I am, believe you me. When Renee was explaining to me how far he could zoom in, I mean, we are not even halfway. Not even halfway. So we can get a lot closer. So I'm going to take a little bit of that orange flame that we used for the rust, and I'm going to put a float of that orange flame on one side of my star. Just like that. I just want half of the star to have that orangey look. I love that. Meant to be primitive. So let's dry that. And then we're going to age this tag with a little bit of asphaltum. I love this part. Take care, Sherry Taylor. So I'm going to float Smudge Phantom all the way around the outside edge of my tag, including right over top of my star, like so. Up onto my edges. I like that this tag does not look perfect. And then you can come back in with some asphaltum and darken a few spots, which I like to do. Much like doing that painted edge, I like to have those little, those little distressed bits on the paper so that it doesn't look perfect. I love the imperfections. There we go. Love it. So next, I'm going to add a little detail to my tag. I'm going to, with either a black gel pen or, oh, what the heck is that thing called? Identi-pen. I can never remember the name of that thing. I have no idea why. I just take a blank every time. But I'm using, this is one of my Tombow Mono's drawing pens. I'm just going to put a stitch line all the way around the edge of my tag. Nothing over the top, just a little stitch line. Et voila. And I'm going to dry this really well. And then we're going to tackle the twine. I did get it. I can never remember the name of that thing. It drives me bananas. We're going into 3 hours. Oh, my stars. But this is fun. I'm having a great time. This is a big piece, and there was a lot of techniques in it. So we're going to finish this off. We don't have a lot left to do, just some details. So I'm going to take my rigger and one of my favorite colors, cobblestone. Take care, Patrick. Now, if you don't have cobblestone, you can use burlap. You can use khaki tan if you want to. There's so many colors that will take the place of this very easily. So this is how difficult this is. We're going to paint each of those lengths of twine with cobblestone. Now, if you lose the lines, that's okay. I can see enough of it to work around it. There we go. This color is just a beautiful neutral, that cobblestone, and it works so well for a lot of different things. For me, it's a color that I gravitated to the minute I saw it. It was like, oh, there's a neutral I can use with abandon. Now, before I finish painting that bow, there's a little spot here I need to do, and here. I'm going to bring this piece in, and that one goes down, and then there's one here. So we've got that. Now, before I do all of that, I want to show you something. I'm going to take, this is soft black. one of those colors. I don't use it all the time, but it comes in very handy. It has a warm black. It has a reddish undertone, and it works exceptionally well here. So I wanted a nice deeper shadow on this side of our tag and across the bottom. It's just a little bit. But then I want to run that same shadow right along the edge of these two strands that are falling here. Right up against them. Just like that. That little bit of soft black. You can do it with asphaltum if you don't have soft black, or you can mix a little bit of black with asphaltum, but it needs to be a little darker. And the reason for that is that it's going to give us some elevation. It's going to make this look like it's floating above that surface. So we need a darker shadow there, just to give it a little elevation. Now, when it comes to the tag, and you're putting a shadow along here to give it that depth, like a drop shadow, don't take it all the way to the end of the tag. Stop short, about 1/8 of an inch. And this way, it implies there's elevation. So it gives this tag a little more height. And I love this little bit of soft black there because it gives these that illusion that they're hovering above this surface, that they're not laying on it completely. So that now, when I come in here and I paint this, there's that edge. I'm going to put a few fine lines off the end there. There we go. And then again, I'm going to add a few fine lines off the bottom, like that. And I can come back up here and finish out the bow. Okay. I love doing stuff like this. And I keep losing you guys in the camera thingy there. There we go. And then just the two little pieces in the center right here. There we go. Our can is really looking sharp. Now this part actually works up very quickly. So I'm going to dry this really well. See, we got a nice drop shadow there. Got a really nice drop shadow. So I'm going to switch to my 3/8 angle again. And I'm going to pick up a little bit of asphaltum. And we're going to shade the bottom of each of those strands with just a little float. So right in that line, those lines that define. So right there, it's a tiny little float. It's not even neat and tidy. It's a little, I'm only using the very tip of my brush, quite honestly. So a little float right at the bottom. of each of those strands of twine, just like that. Just like this. Separate the... So we need a shadow on this side. It's very loose, not even pretty, I'll be honest. So when you look at this, this is what you get. It looks pretty ragged, I'll be honest. It's not a super pretty float. So we're going to dry that.
Come to inspect.
You come in, we're getting there. We're almost done. We've just a few things to do. Finish off the leaves with some detail work. Finish the lettering. We're almost done with the twine, so. Oh, pretty.
That's the...
Oh, let me show off a little.
There you go.
So, Renee's hobby, I don't know if any of you know this, but Renee's hobby is watchmaking. And he just finished this one. That looks so sharp. He just finished this one. He made this. Look at that watch. And you can see his initials on the face, RCM.
Great choice on the camera.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't choose the well, yeah, I kind of did, didn't I?
Yeah, you did. Isn't that pretty? And what did you say this strap was made out of?
Quartz.
White quartz.
White quartz.
Yeah. So it's essentially a stone strap. It's gorgeous. Thank you.
It actually probably fit you.
Yeah, more than likely. No, it might be a bit well thin. Let me see. There. Look at that. Perfect fit.
Okay, it's yours now.
That's awesome.
You like that?
It's beautiful.
Good,
Look at that.
Fix it again. Don't let it lose time.
Don't let it lose time. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, here, take
Squeeze.
that off. Oh, right. There we go.
There you
Do
Yeah.
you sell them?
go. Not yet.
Not yet.
No, this is why.
Ah, okay. That would be sad if you lost that.
Yeah, you don't want to lose that.
But yeah, that's what he spends his spare time doing. Judy, he can make me one anytime.
I like
he makes beautiful watches. So the twine, we're going to shade underneath, inside that little twist right there, and in here. We have to give this some dimension. Don't forget, got a shade around it here. So our oh goodness, that's a little stronger than I need it to be. Our twine is starting to look like something. So far we have used cobblestone and asphaltum to create this twine. So I'm going to switch to a different color now called sand gray. I'm reluctant to use a white for this next step simply because it's a little too bright. I'm really happy with this camera, and I'm thrilled that you guys are happy with it. No, it's not on the list, but you can use, I usually just mix a little asphaltum and a little bit of lamp black, but I just wanted to demonstrate how soft black will work too if you don't. So, where was that going? Sand gray, right. Sand gray will take the place of a white for a highlight very nicely. So I'm taking sand gray. And remember, this is twisted. I'm loving the new camera. Thrills me that you guys are happy too. So I'm trying to remember which way I went with this. So we're going to put a twist in our twine, and it's essentially just a little diagonal version of our, good Lord, of our candy canes, but it's much smaller. So it's just like that. Little diagonal twist, that's all it is. And you leave a little gap between. Which is why I'm using the rigger to do it, because it's just a little stroke. And I've got my paint a little too thick, but and it doesn't have to go all the way around. It just gives it a ropey look. And don't forget, add a little highlight on those little strokes that come off the bottom. There we go. Oops. They don't have to be perfect. Now I'm using sand gray. And then we're going to go back in and deepen some shadows. Mom always gets first dibs on Renee's brushes on his watches. He made me a beautiful one for my birthday, but I'm rather in love with that white one. I fell in love with the strap. I hadn't even seen the watch yet, and it is just gorgeous. Okay, so now that I've got that in, I'm going to go over and pick up a little bit of warm white, just a tiny bit, because I'm going to overstroke a few of these little gray strips in some key areas. And key areas are always going to be to the left because that's the highlighter. How many hours did it take? I'm going to say it probably took him about, I don't know, 25 or 30 hours. So just in key places, always to the left, I'm using a little bit, tiny little bit of warm white. Just to overstroke those little key things, and it's very short. Little highlights. Just in key areas and always on the left. You don't want to put them everywhere because you don't need them everywhere. A few here, mostly here. Just like that. Well, the largest portion of it are already pre-made. So, you know, the outside case is pre-made, the straps are made, all of that. He assembles the rest. And it's, yeah. So it's tiny work. He does, his watches are incredible. He made his father a Rolex. So our twine is looking pretty good, but we do need to shade it one more time. So a little bit of asphaltum. And we're going to put a little float. Now these ones go right in that crease. It's a little line of asphaltum right in the crease between. See how they define almost instantly. So it's a little darker, like that. So get in there, a little darker. I love that little punch of realism, that those little extra shadows, putting in, deepening a shadow here, deepening a shadow there. Yes, Judy, he also works through a magnifier. He has a magnifier on his desk. But he's teaching, learning to do watch repair and things like that in the process. So it's quite impressive. He blows my mind all the time. So little shadows are where all of the detail is. The devil is in the details. So you need to get those little shadows in the right places. And right here, look at this. You get this one, then your knot suddenly comes to life. You get that shadow in place so that that string is tucked in behind and this one weaves through. So it changes how this all looks. And then we're going to deepen the shadow on the back side of these. Just a little tiny scrub of color in. So we only have one more float to finish that can. And we need a larger brush. We're going to take a little bit of asphaltum and oh, his eye is all healed up, thank heavens. A little bit of asphaltum and a little bit of lamp black, just to make a very dark, transparent brown. And we're going to put a shadow up this side of our can, like so, right over the twine. Take that shadow over the twine, up underneath. That float needs to be nice and dark. Just like that. And it's important that we get that shadow right so that when we come over to this side, that shadow is a little narrower, but also the same depth. There we go. Look at that. And then you can take that right along the bottom there. Now, I want to put a shadow right here at the front of our can, like that. It's going to come around like this. Because our light source is over here, so there's going to be a shadow following us. Light source is basically in the upper left. So then we've got this nice little shadow right here. And a little bit of warm white. We're going to put a highlight right here at the top of our tabletop on both sides, like so. Look at that. Now, our next step is a little bit of asphaltum. And you're going to blend it out quite well. And we're going to put a shadow to the right side of the lettering. So just like this. Doesn't have to be neat and tidy. Left side. It's not even a dark float. It's just enough to lift these letters off the surface. I just want a little float of asphaltum. Otherwise, this lettering just looks stuck there and there's no contrast. And it doesn't have any oomph. So there we go. We've got little float. Look, you can even see the lettering. Just a little float. Now I'm going to grab my white Posca pen. There it is. I think what I like most about this piece is that there's so many techniques involved in it. And it works. So I've got my white Posca pen. I'm using this one is my 1.3 millimeter. I wanted my lettering a little bit bigger this time around, but you can use a 0.7 quite nicely. And I chose to use a Posca pen because I really liked the handwritten look of this. And it's simpler. And it just has this really nice kind of rustic look to it that appeals, I think. Happy holidays. So I think that the handwritten thing actually works really well for this type of design. So I'm going to dry that. I love the opacity of those. Renee, he didn't get a kit. He had to actually order Rolex parts individually. And then had to order a Rolex case and a face. And yeah, he had to get them from several different places because there wasn't a Rolex kit available. So he got everything he needed and he built my husband a Rolex, the beautiful one. And he's even got, he has a laser to engrave the faces so he can put artwork on the face of them. He just comes up with the artwork and then creates an SVG so that he can use the little laser to decorate the face. He's done a couple of custom watches for my husband that way. But he's gotten really good at it. So he went and had his monogram done on stainless steel. A little teeny, you have to see them, they're so small. Laser cut decals, basically, made out of metal, and so that he can put his signature on his watches. So that's what that RCM underneath everything is. So he does beautiful work. So I've got a couple of things here. I want to deepen this shadow a bit because I'm not feeling the joy. There we go. That's better. So what started out as that blue-gray can turned out to be a rather nice little rusty tin can, which I'm rather pleased with. And you can highlight this even more if you want to. So if at any time you're not thrilled with, say, the highlights on the can, don't be afraid to take a little bit of your Canyon orange and add a little touch of white to it. And then just, highlight a few specific areas that you like. There is nothing wrong with brightening this. So whenever you get an area that you want to kick up a little bit, a little dry brush of a bright orange in place will amp things up really nicely. So we have our lettering in. We have our tag done, our twine is done. So it's time to finish off all the little details in this piece. And I'm going to do that with a very fine liner, if I can find one. There it is. Here's hoping it's a good one. I've had the worst luck with my liners lately. So for the detail on the leaves and the stems and the curlicues, I'm going to use a little bit of margarita and a touch of warm white. I'm going to thin this out quite a bit. I just want a little white in it, just a little more opaque and a little bit brighter. So I've got, we're almost there. This is so exciting. I love this part. So I like to outline my leaves a little bit. I like this sort of curlicues, but it also lets you detail things nicely. You know, you get these really nice little punches of color, and it helps things stand out a little bit, especially when you've got a lot going on in a piece like this. There's oodles of things to do. Look at that. And you can bring that little bit of that color right onto that center vein to amp up that highlight a little bit. Let's see, let's zoom you in a little bit. So it doesn't even have to be perfectly on the edge of the leaf. It can go on the leaf, it can go off. It's okay. But I find that this little detail just helps make things look soft and a little more delicate. And then that nice little impact point. We've got a leaf back there. Such a fun way to finish things. Now, depending on the leaf, sometimes I will go back over it just to give it a little more of a lacy feel. So sometimes having 2 rows of that, like 2 layers of that, it just softens the edges even further. So I would go back and do this. So, because you can't trace over it perfectly each time, but that little extra layer does wonders. And then, of course, you've got your leaves. These little leaves, I put my stem in first, like so. And then I start on my stem and I do this. Little irregular line. I'm going to remove my graphite because I don't like it. So I'm going to have a line going there and a line like that. And then I start my outline on that stem. Here we go. So look at that. So that changes things yet again. So I love this little highlight where you just put in a little stroke of it there. It just gives it a little more sheen. So we have those bright candy canes, all those rich leaves, the tin can. I love the tin can. So I'm going to rinse out my brush and I'm going to get some clean paint. And I'm going to put a nice little curlicue in. Oops, that one's not very nice. I do like a curlicue. There we go. You can never truly mess up a curlicue, quite honestly. There we go. So just one little thing left to do, and you got to do it because, you know. What did I do with it? There it is. So I've got my fugly brush and a little bit of warm white, and I'm going to spatter it. I don't want to do a ton of it. I'm mainly focusing it around the outside. There we go. Little spatter of warm white. Let it dry. And then a little spatter of thinned lamp black. And Renee will be down shortly to little spatter of lamp black. And you can spatter with a little asphaltum too, if you want to. I like the little bit of spatter. So I'm going to dry that, and then I'm going to show you a little trick. I'm looking at my lettering, and it looks, although it's nice and clear, it doesn't look like it's got enough oomph. So remember what I did for the stitches? I'm going to do the same thing with my lettering. So on the inside, where I place those shadows, I'm just going to put a thin line with my black pen. You can do this with a gel pen. You can do this with an Identa pen. Whatever you have on hand. This little thin line, and it's not a hard line. It's just that right on the edge of the letter. It's super fine. Doesn't have to be perfect by any means. I am the last person to expect perfection. Look at that. So all that does, that tiny little line, look at how defined the lettering is now. Even though we haven't drastically changed the lettering, I haven't put in any heavy, thick lines. I have just detailed that one side. My shadow wasn't quite dark enough, but that's okay. So there's our happy holidays. I'm going to wash that pencil off. There we go. Now we did the chipped wood around the outside on this side on the first one when we demoed that this morning or earlier. Plantation pine you can deepen the shadows with. If you want to use the joy, you could put it in the middle of the tag. I put a star in because the star is easier for a lot of people, so I went with a star, but I would just substitute and put joy in the middle of the tag. So the only thing I have left to do is message Renee with wheel time. The only thing we have left to do, we're going to talk about that outside edge. Now, on this one, right here, I used a little bit of soft black to edge the outside edges, and that's what we're going to do on this one, so that you can see that there's two options for finishing the edges on this. So Renee is getting the wheel ready, and I'm going to quickly show you how to do this. I've got two little pieces of shop towel, teeny tiny. Tuck one inside the other. Make yourself a little pillow like that. This is your high-tech applicator. And you're going to pick up a teeny tiny amount of soft black, just like that. Itty bitty. And then you just put a little at the outside edge, like so. You don't have to use a lot and you don't have to do much. But that little bit of soft black just deepens the edges enough. So you have two options for finishing the edges on this one. You can use that broken paint. You could leave it as is, or you can darken the outside edge a little bit with a little bit of soft black. And how much you do is entirely up to you. You can do a little or you can do a lot. In this case, I'm just doing a little, and you can see that a little goes a long way. So that is our happy holly days. This is such a fun piece. So next Saturday, I'm going to go to Feast Camp. So next Saturday, we're going to be doing the sunflowers in the rusty tin can. I've got a completely different technique for that for next week. We're going to be using a texture medium to create that tin can, that rusty look. And it's a really fun method to do it. Lots of dry brushing, lots of fun things to do, of course. And then our pretty sunflowers. I love sunflowers. So that's on our agenda for next Saturday. And then the following Saturday, I'm taking a week off. So there will be a video for you that will be up, and you can it'll premiere on that Saturday at 12 noon, same time as always. So dum, da, da. Renee's got the wheel. You think? Okay, you got the wheel? Good to go? Maybe. Well, she didn't stick her head through the door. That's amazing. Oof. There's a lot of people on that wheel.
Yes, there are.
Okay. Are you ready?
How many are you giving away?
We've got 2. Now, the giveaways for this Saturday, I'll just repeat. We have my favorite Dynasty Black Gold brushes, which are my varnishing brush, my flat wash, and my script liner. I love those in the black gold. And in the Dynasty Faux Squirrel, I have a set of my favorite angles and a rigger. So somebody will get those. And of course, we always have a create bag full of little goodies from both Renee and myself as well. So that is our giveaways for today. So let's see who wins.
Deborah's wondering how is Taz.
Taz is a holy terror. No other word for it. She couldn't settle down after her spay and ended up ripping her stitches and getting a hernia. So we had to have her back in surgery in the same week. So my little rescue cat has turned into a purebred. Or at least the price of one. And our first winner is Barbara McMahon. Barbara McMahon. It's not McMahon? Yeah, it's McMahon. Not Mahone.
Mahone?
No, there's no E at the end. Yeah. Yep.
And you're not Irish either.
Nope. It's MC, not MAC. So Barbara McMahon. Go over to the website at tracymoreau.net. Click on the little speech bubble. The speech bubble's not there. I forgot all about that. Click on the contact button and send us a message with your shipping information, please, so that we can get your goodies out to you as soon as possible.
All right. One more.
One more.
Congrats, Barbara.
Elka Levantis. Levanites. Levanatis. Sounds Greek to me.
Elka?
Not Elka. No, Elka sounds German or Swedish. Or Levanites. Perfect. Elka, I have your shipping information. That I know. All right, everybody, that's it for me this weekend. I hope you guys have a fantastic weekend. Enjoy the sunshine. And if you're in those ultra hot temperatures, make sure you stay cool and drink lots of water. Everybody, I love you. Stay safe. We'll see you again soon.
You pet your dog.
Pet your dog. Oh, that one went well, but it went long. I've never seen them ask so many friggin' questions.